Hey everyone, I'm Sean Derrick here, and I want to share an encouraging story with you. I was at a listing appointment yesterday with a lady. I think she was 60, 62 years old. She was a wonderful woman, and I realized in like 5 minutes that she was about to make a very expensive mistake as she was thinking about selling her house. Not because she was doing anything wrong, honestly, but because nobody told her that she had choices when it came to selling. Now, guys, I've been selling and helping buyers buy and sellers sell for over a decade, and I see the same 5 mistakes, okay, over and over and over again, particularly in friends and clients who are kind of over the age of 50 years old. And I think the frustrating part for me personally is every single one of those mistakes is avoidable. So today in this video, I just want to break down what these 5 biggest mistakes are that I see weekly. And I think more importantly, I want to show you how to avoid them. Because here is what I believe, okay? Everyone can have their own thought process. Here's my business way of believing what serves clients. The right way to sell your house really depends upon your goals. It depends upon your timeline, and it depends upon your life situation, right? There's really not a one-size-fits-all answer. So how about we just kind of figure that out together, all right? Let's see what might be right for you. So the first mistake I see is spending money on the wrong updates. So yesterday I was at the appointment and this woman had gotten advice from, I think, a very well-meaning friend, okay, who just said she needed to update her entire kitchen and entire bathroom in order to sell. And the reality thing is, that was a lot of money, right? She was looking at spending almost $40,000 when it came to updating if she did it. And when I asked her this question, I said, well, what are your goals here? She just simply said, honestly, Sean, I just want to downsize and be closer to my daughter. So I'm just ready for the next chapter. And so I just asked her, I said, well, do you want to enjoy the updates? Like, do you want an updated kitchen and enjoy it? Or are you only doing it just because someone maybe said you had to? And this is what she said. She said, look, I just want to move. I don't care about a new kitchen. So here's what I want to help teach you is this is the mistake I see, is spending money on updates that you don't want and will not enjoy. Okay, now let me be clear. If you want an updated kitchen and to update your kitchen and you're going to enjoy it for a little bit, awesome, do it. And you'll even be able to enjoy it while you're listing the home for sale. Okay, that's totally different. But some of my clients, they just don't want to do that, or they love doing that kind of work, which is totally fine. Okay, if you love doing it and they want their house to show as well as possible, again, that's not a problem. Though, I think what matters is if you are updating just because you think you have to, let's talk about whether that makes sense for your specific house and your specific market. So here's what I told her. I said, we have really 3 paths here to consider. You tell me, right, which one fits your goals. One option is we can do the strategic updates, right? Which just means the things that actually bring an ROI, a return on the value from what you put in, right? So you get a return on the money that you put into the home. And if you don't want to pay that amount of money up front, well, we also have something called a renovate now, pay later program where it just comes out of your closing. So we renovate, we pay for it, and it gets paid out of your equity. Not out of your immediate pocket. So there's options, right, with that option. And then there's a second option where we just list it as is, right, with really minor prep work. We do some cleaning, do some decluttering, fixing of obvious stuff, but we just price it right, and the buyer can do their own updates. And then the third option is one where you really just want to be done, okay? Convenience is more important to you, and you just want a fast cash sale option where it's sold as is, you pick literally the closing date, no inspections, it's as is, and then you just make the exit as easy as possible. Now this seller, she ended up choosing the second option, So she spent about $2,000 on cleaning and minor repairs, listed it, sold it in like 11 days. So the mistake wasn't that she almost renovated. Okay, the mistake was almost spending $40,000 without knowing her other options. Which brings me to mistake 2. And the second mistake is not matching what other homes in your price point have done. All right, this is a huge one. Most people, they actually get it backwards, right? I had a client last year who wanted to put in stainless steel appliances before the listing. And she was gonna spend $3,500, right? And I said, hey, let me show you something. I pulled up every single active and pending listing in her price range with a 2-mile radius, and almost every one had white or black appliances. I said none of them had stainless steel. So if you put stainless steel appliances in, you're not gonna necessarily get that money back because buyers shopping at your price point aren't expecting it and they're not going to pay extra for it. So you're spending $3,500 to match what homes maybe $50,000 or $60,000 above yours has. So we kind of get the point. Here's the principle. You need to match, not exceed, what really you're competing with in regards to homes at the price point that you're selling at. So think of it like this. If you're selling a $350,000 home, look at what other $350,000 homes have. If they all have updated laminate countertops or granite countertops, then we'll update to granite countertops if everybody else that has sold has that, okay? But if they all have, just fresh neutral paint, then we'll consider fresh neutral paint. But if you have really gross stained carpet, since 1995 maybe, you probably need to replace it because if you're looking at pictures and everybody else has new carpet. Okay, so this is really what I mean. Don't over-improve. If every house in your price range just has builder grade finishes, you don't need granite countertops. You do probably need a clean, updated, builder grade finish, to be able to sell, but don't go overboard. I'll wrap up this mistake here. I had a client with original appliances. I mean, they worked incredible, actually, but they're original and they look very old. And what happened was because they were dated, every other listing in their neighborhood had newer white appliances, nothing fancy, but just new and clean. So, well, we spent the $1,800 on basic white appliances from Lowe's, and the house showed better, matched the competitors, and we got multiple offers. Okay, we got multiple offers. So here's what I do with every client. Before we decide what to update, I show you what you're competing against. And then we look at the last 5 to 10 sales in your price point, and we look at active listings too, and then we make smart decisions, right, about what your house particularly should have if your goal is to maximize profit and do the needed updates. Because you don't really want to under-improve and definitely have your house maybe look really dated compared to everything else, but you also don't want to over-improve and maybe spend money that you'll never get back. So the goal is to match your competition, not beat it necessarily, okay, and definitely not to fall too short. You want to match it. And that's where I come in, okay? I tell you exactly what makes sense for your house and your market at your price point, and then we only look to spend money in the right places and we save it everywhere else. So now let's talk about the third mistake, okay? The third mistake is not planning your transition timeline. All right, this one breaks my heart, okay, because I've seen it many times and don't love it. This is where someone sells their house and they're excited, they close, and then the reality hits. Wait, where am I going? Then they're staying with their kiddos or maybe in temporary rental, which they really don't like because they hear people upstairs, or just rushing. Well, I really don't like this, when they rush to buy something just because they're maybe running out of time. It's stressful and it leads to sometimes just kind of bad decisions. So here's what I want for you, okay? And here's what I want you to think about. What's your ideal transition look like? If you could just wave the magic wand, the realistic magic wand, what does it look like? Do you already know exactly where you're going? Well, great. If you do, if you know exactly where you're going, then a traditional sale is probably going to work really well for you, right? Are you downsizing? but you haven't really found the right place yet. Well, then maybe we need to consider a different plan. Okay, so let me give you 3 common scenarios I see. The first scenario is you do know where you're going. That's a great one for traditional MLS sale. It works great. All right, we time the closing to line up with your move. Simple, easy peasy. Scenario 2 is you want to move, but you're not, but you're still looking for the right place, right? Well, there is a program called Sell Now, Buy Later. That's where you sell, you get your equity freed up, all the money that you need for your next place, but then you just rent back your own house for a few months while you find what you want, right? There's no pressure, there's no rushing, right, in that scenario. And then there's a third scenario, which you just want out. You want the easy button. You'll figure out the next steps later, and some people are just ready to sell this way. You know, they're fine if they rent, they're fine if they stay with family, and that's just no problem, right? So just as you think about which scenario you fit, I think that's the key. Because the mistake isn't really choosing one over the other at all. The mistake is just not having a plan, right, that matches your situation, which is key. So I think my question here is just, what is your goal? Where are you going? What is your timeline? And then let's build the plan around your answers, not around maybe what's easiest for me as the agent. Okay, so that's why I share that mistake number 3. So let's talk about mistake number 4 that I see. And this is accepting the highest price estimate without asking questions. This is where we just got to talk about what happens often when you interview real estate agents, okay? Let's say you interview 3 real estate agents, and one says your house is worth $400,000. One says your house is worth $415,000, and then maybe the other says your house is worth $450,000. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, well, why wouldn't I not use this other agent who said $450,000? That makes me more money. That way of thinking does make sense, right? Most people actually pick the $450,000 agent. That's why I'm telling you it's a mistake, okay? It's not necessarily a mistake that you're just choosing them because of the price, but you didn't ask questions. So here is what you want to ask. What are you, Mr. Agent, basing that price on? Now, if an agent cannot pull up actual comparable sales homes like yours that have sold, not listed, okay, but sold in the last 90 days, and walk you through the numbers, the reality is they're guessing. If they can't do that, they're guessing, okay? And don't hire that agent. Sometimes unfortunately, sometimes they will tell you what you want to hear just to maybe get your listing, okay? Maybe they're right though, okay? And maybe your house is worth $450,000, but you still need to see the evidence, okay? So here's what I do. I bring comparable sales printed out to our meeting. I show you what sold, for how much. We look at pictures, why I think your house compares. And if I think it's worth more, well, I tell you why. If I think it's worth less, I tell you that too. I would rather not get a listing simply by telling you the truth than trying to win business in a sense by overpricing your house and having it sit on the market for 4 months and getting no sale, okay? Because honestly, a house that is priced right, it sells fast. And often maybe sometimes even multiple offers. And then you move with more money in your pocket than if you actually overpriced it from the start. So when you're interviewing agents, ask them, show me the comparable sales. Why do you think my house is different? What's your price strategy? Okay, the right agent will welcome those kinds of questions. All right, so let's break down the last mistake I see, mistake number 5, and that is not knowing all of your options that exist. I think this is the biggest one, okay? It's why I made this video, all right? Most people think there's only one way to sell. List it, show it, wait for an offer, deal with financing contingencies, hope nothing falls apart, close 30, 60 days away. All right, that's the traditional sale. And for a lot of people, So sometimes most, but a lot of people, that is the exact right choice for them. But it's not the only choice, okay? Depending upon your goals, you might choose traditional sale with prep, doing the work, strategic updates, pricing it competitively, getting showings, getting the highest price. It works great. If you have time, if you have energy, and you want to maximize the return. You can also do traditional listing as is, where you do minimal prep. You price it accordingly to the as is. I mean, lower than the other comps. Let the buyer customize it how they want, right? Perfect if you're ready to move and the house is really move-in ready, just needs a little bit of updating, okay? And you just don't want the hassle, all right? You are selling it for a little bit less though. Then there's also renovate now, pay later, where you want updates, but don't want to pay up front. We bring in contractors, the work gets done, comes out of your closing, right? You enjoy the updates while you're listing the house. But then there's also the sell now, buy later program, where you need your equity freed up, right? But you're not ready to move yet. So you sell, you get your money, you rent back while you find your next place. And then the last one is just the fast cash sale, right? You want to be done, right? Sell it as is. You pick your closing date, no showings, no stress. You just net a little bit less than the other options. But some people really the convenience is a little bit more important to them than maximizing every dollar out of the profit. Okay, so sometimes it's a trade-off that you have to kind of consider what is worth it. So here's what matters, okay? These are tools. Which tool is right, it really depends upon what your goals are, right? I've had clients do traditional sales and net $50,000 more than maybe a cash offer would have given them. And it was the right choice for them. I've had other clients take cash offers for less because they valued time and simplicity over maximizing the dollar. And that was the right choice for them, right? My job is never to push you towards the option that maybe makes me the most amount of money or as easy as for me. My job is to show you what's possible, help you choose what's right for your life, and then we move forward, okay? We move forward. So let me just recap, all right, as we finish up here, the 5 mistakes. Spending money on updates without knowing if they'll make sense for your specific situation. Not matching what other homes in your price point are offering. Not planning your transition timeline before you list, accepting the highest priced estimate without seeing the evidence, and not knowing all of your options that actually exist. So here's something I want you to hear, okay? You don't have to wait until it's ready, it's time to list before you start having a conversation, okay? So my personal advice is, honestly, I think the best clients often are the ones who start the relationship with the real estate agent plenty in advance. You have plenty of time to not only get to know each other, but to really work through the best strategies to be able to serve you. There could be decluttering services, staging services. There could be all kinds of services that would just serve you so that you don't have to be fearful, especially if you've been living in a home for 20, 30 years. You've probably accumulated a lot of stuff, and that's normal. Everybody does. So I just want to be able to know you have options. We're here to serve you. And if you're watching this video and you're not in the Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia area, find an agent who kind of agrees with me. Alrighty? Have a wonderful day and always know you can reach out. God bless.